Pastor Ed here with Daily Devotions for Tuesday, August the 22nd. We start a new week in a new subject. We're still talking about the abundant life. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly, said Jesus in John 10:10. But for the next several days, beginning today, I'm going to talk about it's about purpose, not achievement. In Vienna, Austria, during the period leading up to World War II, there were three Jewish psychiatrists, two learned masters in the field and one young apprentice. The first master was Sigmund Freud. He had spent years studying people, striving to understand what makes us tick. He'd finally reached the conclusion that the most basic human drive, the basic drive in human beings, is the drive for pleasure. It's our need for pleasure, said Freud, that explains why we do what we do and how we live. Second master was Alfred Adler. He too spent years studying human behavior. His studies, however, had led him to disagree with Freud. Adler had become convinced that the bottom line explanation for human behavior is power. All of us grow up feeling inferior and powerless, said Adler. Life is based, therefore, on a drive to gain control, to feel that we are important. And the third man was a young, up-and-coming psychiatrist by the name of Viktor Frankl. He had hoped to follow in the footsteps of his great mentors, Freud and Adler. But before his career could gain any real momentum, there was a little interruption, something called Nazi Germany in the Second World War. The Nazis quickly took over Austria, and it immediately became dangerous to be a Jew, even a rich or famous one. Freud and Adler were world-renowned scholars, of course. They managed to escape Austria and Europe before the Nazi takeover. Frankl was not so lucky. He was arrested and thrown into a Nazi concentration camp. He survived, however, and after the war was over, he was released from the concentration camp and resumed his career. He also began to think about his time in captivity. And he realized something quite strange, actually. That is, the people who had survived the camps were not always the ones that you'd expect. Many who were physically strong, for instance, had wasted away and died, while others who were physically weak grew strong and survived. Why, he wondered. What was it that enabled them to hang on through literally a living hell? So Frankl began to reflect on the theories of his mentors, Freud and Adler, and he realized that Freud's pleasure principle couldn't explain this survival phenomenon. During those 4 desperate and terrible years, the individuals in that concentration camp had known only pain and suffering and degradation. Pleasure was simply not a word in their vocabulary. It obviously wasn't pleasure, therefore, that had kept them going. What then of Adler's theory about power being the basic human need? Well, this theory didn't fare any better. That's because Frankl and his fellow Jews were completely powerless during their time in the concentration camp. Each and every day they had stared down the barrel of a loaded gun. Each and every day they had been treated as animals. Their freedom and dignity had been completely stripped away. They were regarded as being subhuman. Clearly then, they had no power and no reasonable prospect of power in the foreseeable future. And since the theories of his mentors could not explain what had taken place in those concentration camps, Viktor Frankl came up with his own theory. The difference between those who died and those who survived, he concluded, was hope. Those who survived, he realized, had never given up their belief that their lives had meaning and purpose, that despite everything going on around them, it would one day end and they would once again lead meaningful and purposeful lives. Therefore, what is the basic human drive according to Frankl? What is the one thing that gives us life? It's not pleasure, it's not power. Rather, it's the hope that comes from an enduring sense of meaning and purpose. Now that flies completely in the face of conventional wisdom, doesn't it? Especially today, achievement, not purpose, is what we typically hold up for praise in our culture. And it's what most of us are striving for as well. Whether it's pleasure or power or wealth and success, achievement of some sort, especially noteworthy achievement, is what drives and often consumes us. But Frankl, as we heard, realized that power and pleasure cannot truly fulfill or sustain us. And history has demonstrated time and time again that neither can wealth nor success, no matter how impressive and stunning our achievements in these areas might be. Alexander the Great, for instance, was not satisfied even when he had completely conquered the ancient world. He literally wept because there were no more worlds to conquer, and he ended up dying unfulfilled at the age of only 32. In 1923, the 12 wealthiest men in the world gathered for a meeting at the Edgewater Beach Hotel in Chicago. Literally the who's who of wealth and fame. They together controlled more money than the total amount in the United States Treasury at that time. Among them were Charles Schwab, president of the largest independent steel company, Richard Whitney, president of the New York Stock Exchange, Leon Fraser, the president of the Bank of International Settlements, and Ivar Kreuger, the Swedish financier and industrialist. However, despite their stunning wealth and power, in the end it got them nowhere. 3 of the 12, including Kreuger, later committed suicide. 2 died penniless after going completely bankrupt, and 2 more were sent to prison on fraud-related charges and died soon after being released. Today, rock stars and athletes and celebrities are often the ones that the rest of us look up to because of their impressive achievements, but are their lives any more rewarding and fulfilling or meaningful and purposeful than ours? Madonna, who I talked about last week, had some good things to say about giving, has also been quoted as saying, "My drive in life is from this terrible fear of being mediocre. That's always been pushing me. My struggle has never ended, and it's probably never will." And one of the members of the Dallas Cowboys football team was quoted as asking after they had won Super Bowl 30, "Now what? Who do we play next?" In other words, one can achieve the highest goal in his or her profession. One can reach the very pinnacle of success. But even our most significant achievements seldom bring us true or lasting satisfaction. Chris Evert, recalling the end of her brilliant tennis career, admitted, "I had no idea who I was or what I could be away from tennis. I was depressed and afraid because so much of my life had been defined by my being a tennis champion. I was completely lost," she said. Finally, even Oprah Winfrey, who has become one of the icons of achievement in our own time, has confessed, "I discovered that I didn't feel worth a damn and completely not worthy of love unless I was accomplishing something. I suddenly realized I have never felt that I could be loved just for being me." The bottom line is that achievement is not the be-all and the end-all that we sometimes think it is. Well, we're going to continue this conversation tomorrow and look at a couple of scripture passages in the next 2 days as well that help us sort this out. Till then, hope you have a great day. Again, we'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.